Welcome, dear traveler, wherever you are, curled under blankets, reclining on a couch, resting alone in the quiet stillness of night. I invite you to step softly into the past. Dim the lights. Let your screen glow like a candle in the dark. Turn on a fan if you'd like to feel the whisper of wind from another century. And if you're watching from someplace distant or sacred to you, let me know. There's something beautiful about retracing these roads together. Tonight, we journey back to a world that feels like myth, though it once breathed as real as our own. A world where the stars were the only streetlights, and the horizon was feared as much as it was yearned for. This is the Middle Ages, not the one you saw in glossy films, not the gallant, sanitized version of brave knights and graceful queens, but the raw one, the one that smelled of smoke and sweat and death, where a single infection could kill you, and silence in the village might mean famine had taken its toll. You think you're tough? You're not alone. Many do, but the truth is, you wouldn't last a day in medieval times. Let me show you why. The air is damp before the sun rises. It carries the scent of animals, wet earth, and human breath. You wake not to an alarm clock, but to the guttural sounds of livestock groaning outside your thin wooden walls. A rooster crows, not like a cheerful cartoon, but shrill, piercing. It cuts through the frost of morning. You open your eyes and your straw mattress itches with insects. The lice bite, the rats scurry. Your clothes are the same ones you slept in. They are your only clothes. There is no warm shower waiting. No glass of clean water, no mirror. The chamber pot in the corner stinks. If you're lucky, you'll dump it into the street trench before your neighbor does. If not, someone else's waste might be running past your door when you step out. And yet, this is home. The thatched roof above your head leaks when it rains. The mud walls, stiffened with animal dung, crack from the cold. The fireplace in the middle of the room smolders weakly, if you can find enough wood. Most of it's already been stripped from the surrounding land, claimed by your lord, or stolen under cover of night. You're hungry, but not in the way modern hunger feels. Fleeting, annoying, easily solved by a fridge raid or a delivery app. No. This hunger is deeper, constant. You ache with it. It gnaws at you. Last night's bread was already stale. You scrape off the mold and chew slowly, pretending the texture is normal. You dream of meat, but that's reserved for feast days for lords, or for those who can bribe a butcher. You fetch water from the communal well. It's cloudy. You know it might make you sick, but it's all you have. The local stream smells wrong. Cows piss in it. People empty their slop into it. The brewer downriver dumps his waste there. But water is water, and thirst doesn't negotiate. By now, your hands are already dirty, crusted with mud, cow dung, or soot. You wipe them on your tunic. You do not wash them. Why would you? There's no soap, no running water, and no one expects it. The idea of hygiene doesn't exist the way it does in your world. Cleanliness is a luxury. And even the word itself means something else entirely. Bathing too often is frowned upon. It's thought to weaken the body, to open your pores to sickness. So you scratch, you itch, and you move on. If you're a woman, you rise earlier than the men. The fire must be stoked, the children fed, the bread baked. But there is no yeast packet, no oven temperature, no measured recipe. Just instinct, trial, and error. Your day begins in the dark and ends in it. Even if you're pregnant, and you probably are, you still haul water, knead dough, clean wounds. There is no midwife you can afford, no guarantee of surviving childbirth. Outside, the village is already moving. Men sharpen tools, oxen are being led to the fields. The blacksmith's hammer begins its song, a brutal rhythmic clang that echoes like a heartbeat through the air. Nearby, a child coughs violently, chest shaking. No one stops. Coughs are common. Some pass, some don't. At the manor house above the village, smoke curls from a chimney. Your lord lives there with his family. They sleep in wooden beds with tapestries on the walls. They eat meat every day. They have servants. But even they are not safe from disease, from war, from fate. War is always close. If not today, then soon. Might be a rival lord, or a foreign king, or bandit seeking coin. You have no sword. No armor. If the call to arms comes, you'll carry a wooden club or a pitchfork and pray. The church bells ring. Not for celebration. Not yet. They toll for a soul. Someone has died. You don't need to ask who. You walk by the thatched cottage and see the black cloth hung in the window. Another child, or an elder, or perhaps a mother, feverish for days after giving birth. They'll be buried soon just outside the churchyard. There's no embalming, just a thin coffin if they can afford one, or a wrapped sheet. Death doesn't surprise you, but that doesn't mean it doesn't haunt you. You whisper a prayer, not because you expect an answer, but because it's the only comfort the world allows. Later, in the field, the labor begins. Your body strains under the sun. There's no sunscreen, no breaks every hour, no union. You work until your hands bleed, your back screams, your legs give out. And when your stomach growls again, you eat cold gruel from a shared bowl, no spoon, just fingers. Still think you'd make it? There's no music here, not unless someone has a lute and time to play. No books unless you're lucky enough to live near a monastery and know how to read, which you probably don't. No privacy, no escape, just you and time. And time in the Middle Ages is not your friend. It wears you down like a whetstone on steel. Every day is a slow battle between your will to survive and the world's quiet indifference. But still, you rise. Still you carry on. Because in this age, survival isn't a choice. It's a prayer whispered with every breath, and every breath is a small, defiant miracle. You're not done yet, not even close. We've only just begun. Now take a deep breath. Let the candlelight of the past flicker a little brighter. The Middle Ages are not finished with you. Not yet. The light changes slowly, almost imperceptibly. Morning thickens into day, but there's no clock to tell you how much time has passed. You measure it in shadows, by the tilt of the sun, by the aching of your joints, by the dryness in your mouth. The field stretches before you, unyielding and vast. It's not yours. Not really. You work it, you bleed into its soil, but the harvest belongs to the Lord. Maybe if the yield is generous, you'll be allowed to keep a small portion, enough to feed your family until the next cycle of planting. If the weather is cruel or the Lord greedy, you'll tighten your belt, break your bread into thinner slices, and hope no one notices the hunger in your children's eyes. There's a quiet cruelty to this world. It doesn't shout, it whispers. Through the cold in your bones, through the blisters on your hands, through the silence that falls when a baby doesn't cry at birth. A crow circles overhead. You don't look up, you've learned not to. You've learned that the sky offers no answers, only weather. And even that, rain, wind, frost, comes not as a blessing, but as a question. Will you survive this season? At the edge of the field, a boy cries out. He's cut his foot on a shard of broken pottery buried in the earth. He bleeds. You tear a piece of your garment and wrap it tight around the wound. There's no ointment, no bandage, no antiseptic. Just pressure and hope. In the village, healing comes slowly, if it comes at all. The local healer, an old woman with eyes like river stones, mixes herbs, roots, and whispers. She knows which plants numb pain and which ones ease fevers. But the church watches her. They mutter words like witch. Too much knowledge, too much independence. It threatens the order. The line between healing and heresy is razor thin. One wrong word, one wrong death, and the fire waits. Still, you take the boy to her. What else can you do? You're not afraid of her. You're afraid of what happens if you don't. The path through the village winds like a scar. Muck clings to your shoes. The smell is heavy now, like manure and ash and unwashed skin. People nod as you pass. No smiles. There's little to smile about. You glance toward the chapel. A priest in black robes stares out the door. He nods. His face is hollowed by fasting or sickness or penance. You can't tell which. The church is always watching, always listening, and yet, it's the only place many find meaning, the only promise of justice in a world with so little. Inside the chapel is cold. Stone walls, wooden pews. A crucifix hangs above the altar, its figure twisted in agony. You whisper a prayer as you walk by, not out of faith, but out of fear. Because you've been told, he sees everything, and sins are not easily forgotten. Later, when the sun dips low and the sky bruises with evening, the bell rings again. Time to gather. Tonight there's a council. The Lord Steward will speak to the villagers. You join the crowd outside the longhouse. Torches flicker, moths dance. The steward arrives on horseback, flanked by two men in chainmail. Their faces are unreadable. Their hands rest casually on their sword hilts. He reads from a scroll. Taxes will increase. A neighboring village burned in a raid, and new levies are needed for protection. Protection. The word tastes like iron on your tongue. You bow your head. You say nothing. You grip your child's hand tighter. Afterwards, some grumble quietly. In corners. In whispers. But no one speaks too loudly. You've heard of what happens when someone is accused of rebellion. You've seen a man strung up in the square. You remember the way his feet twitched. You remember the silence that followed. So you hold your tongue. You walk home. And you count the coins you don't have. Inside your hovel, the fire is low. You light a tallow candle. The smell is foul, animal fat, old and greasy, but it's light. You eat what's left of the bread. You drink from the jug of ale. The children curl up on the floor, wrapped in worn cloth. You cover them. You listen to their breathing. One of them coughs again. You pretend not to hear. You sit in silence. You watch the candle gutter in the draft. You wonder how many winters you have left in you. How many more harvests your back can take. And somewhere, deep in your ribs, a quiet defiance glows. This world has not broken you. Not yet. But it's trying. Every day. You close your eyes. Outside the wind howls. Inside, the darkness settles. You do not pray. You simply sleep. Because tomorrow it begins again. And you must wake. And rise. And endure. The Middle Ages are not yet done. The frost has crept in during the night, threading its pale fingers through the cracks in the wall, settling into your bones before your eyes have even opened. Your breath rises in pale clouds. You can see it. You can taste the cold, metallic, sharp, and relentless. The fire has gone out. There's no one to blame. There's no gas line to fix, no emergency number to call. Just ash, and the weight of a winter that doesn't care who you are. You pull your threadbare blanket tighter. It's more holes than cloth now. Beneath it, your children huddle like fledglings in a broken nest. They're quiet, too quiet. You press your hand to the forehead of your youngest. She's warm, too warm. She shivers. She won't eat. You feel the pit open in your stomach. The one every parent knows in this world. The healer has done what she can. She gave you a poultice of crushed willow bark and boiled herbs. Told you to keep the child warm. Told you to pray. You've done both. And still the fever clings. You rise slowly, knees popping, spine stiff from sleeping on packed dirt. There is no time for grief. Not yet. The animals must be fed. If the cow dies, there is no milk. If the chickens starve, there is no meat come spring. Outdoors, the world is silver and gray. Hoarfrost lines every branch. You can hear the crunch of earth beneath your feet like old bones breaking. Your neighbor is already outside. He nods, doesn't speak. He lost his eldest 2 winters ago, fever just like yours. His eyes haven't smiled since. He used to sing, you remember, before he stopped speaking at all. The fields are barren, the soil sleeps. Winter work is different, slower, colder, meaner. You mend fences, you haul water. You clear paths through the snow for the oxen. Every breath burns. Your fingers turn red, then white, then numb. You keep moving, you must keep moving. By midday, the priest visits. He walks slowly, his cloak dragging in the frost. He enters your home with solemn steps. Your child lies quiet, lips cracked, cheeks flushed with heat. He says the rites, just in case. He touches her forehead with a trembling hand. He leaves a candle behind. You know what it means. So does your wife. She does not cry. She holds the child and rocks her, and sings softly in a language older than scripture. Outside, the sun hangs low and dull in the sky. The year crawls toward its end. You hear rumors at the well. A traveler passed through last week. Says a sickness is spreading from the port towns. A new one, worse than the last. They call it the pestilence. No one knows what causes it, but whole villages have fallen silent. People say the dead blacken before the breath leaves their bodies, that the rats flee before it strikes. You listen. You nod. But inside your heart is already preparing. You go to the church that evening, not to worship, but to listen. The priest speaks of punishment, of sin, of wrath. You watch the faces around you, lined with soot and sorrow. These people have nothing left to offer but their guilt. They clutch their rosaries, kneel on splintered wood, beg forgiveness for things they cannot name. A child coughs behind you. Someone flinches. Another leaves the chapel. Too quickly. The fear is the snow has stopped, but the silence it leaves behind is louder than the storm ever was. You step outside, and the whole world seems wrapped in a shroud, white, muffled, still. The trees are bare bones, the fields a smooth expanse of frost. Even the birds are gone, tucked away in some hidden corner of this cold, pitiless world. Should be beautiful, but it's not. Not here. Not when beauty serves no purpose. You move slowly, not from laziness, but because every joint aches from the cold. Every breath is a little knife against your lungs. You've grown used to the pain. Everyone has. Pain is the one companion that never leaves in this place. It walks beside you like a shadow, loyal and unkind. The village wakes reluctantly. A door creaks open. A dog barks, hoarse and tired. A woman drags a bucket to the well, the ice cracking under her boots. You nod to her, she doesn't nod back. She lost her husband last spring. He drowned in the river while fishing, swept away like a twig. No one could help. No one dared. You still remember the sound she made when they pulled his body out. It wasn't a scream. It was something deeper. Something that made your teeth ache just to hear it. Life here is stitched together by sorrow. Every family has buried someone. Every child knows the weight of absence. You take the path toward the outer fields. Storm knocked down part of the fencing 2 nights ago, and the steward will want it fixed before the next inspection. You pass the gallows on the way. A single wooden beam, 2 nooses still swaying gently in the wind. No one hangs there today, but the memory does. You remember the boy who stole a loaf of bread last winter. He was 12, and hungry, and desperate. They called it justice. You call it survival, but your voice doesn't matter. It never has. Near the edge of the forest, a man chops wood. His arms are bare despite the cold. His hands thick with calluses. He doesn't look up as you pass. His wife died in childbirth. The baby, too. He never speaks anymore, but he swings that axe like it's the only thing keeping him alive. You understand. You really do. The forest itself is a place of legend and fear. Dark, dense, full of whispers. They say there are wolves there. And worse things, spirits, witches, fey folk who steal your breath in the night. Superstition, perhaps. But who dares to doubt it, when even the real world is this cruel? Your stomach growls. There's little food left. Turnips, mostly. Some barley, if you stretch it. You think about the grain store, but it's guarded. You've seen what they do to thieves. You still remember the way that woman screamed when they cut off her hand. Not from the pain, but from knowing what came next. How she'd feed her children with only one hand. How she'd survive the winter with half the strength. The village pretended she didn't exist after that, because if you look too long at another's suffering, you start to feel your own. Back at home, your wife is quiet. Her eyes have gone somewhere far away, and you don't know how to call them back. She sits by the hearth with your son. He doesn't cry for his sister anymore. You wonder if he even remembers her face. You reach for the bread. It's hard as stone, but you chew it anyway. Your teeth ache. One of them is loose. You pray it holds. There's no dentist, no medicine. If it rots, the infection will spread. And then it's only a matter of time. You've seen it happen. A man gets a toothache, then a fever, then silence. He dies with his mouth open and his eyes staring at the ceiling like he's still waiting for something to save him. At midday, a bell rings. Not the chapel bell, the warning bell. You rush outside, heart pounding. Smoke, thick, black, rising above the tree line. Bandits, maybe. Or worse, soldiers. You grab your son and pull him close. Your wife bolts the door. There's no weapons, not really. Just a pitchfork and a dull blade you use for cutting meat. You wait, breath shallow, ears straining, and then nothing. The smoke fades. It was the miller's barn. Gone now. The steward will investigate. Someone will be punished. It doesn't matter if they were guilty. Someone must be punished. That's the way it works. Later, you walk past the ruins. The air still smells like ash and despair. The miller's wife stands nearby, holding a baby and weeping quietly. Her hands are black with soot. She says nothing. You say nothing. Words are useless here. At night, the wind howls again. You feed the fire what little wood you have. The warmth doesn't reach your feet. Your wife falls asleep first, then your son. You sit up, alone, listening to the wind press against the walls like an unwelcome guest. You think of your daughter. of her quiet breath, of her last word. You think of the gallows, the woods, the rats in the grain, the priest with his soft hands and empty eyes, the steward who smiles as he takes what little you have left. And then you think, what would someone from the future make of this? Would they call you primitive? Savage? Would they laugh at your suffering the way children laugh at monsters in books? Would they understand? Could they? You doubt it, because this world is not made of stories. It is made of cold, and silence, and blood. And still you rise. Still you endure, because that is all you've ever known. This is not history. This is survival. And the Middle Ages, they don't want you to live. The morning breaks, if you can call it that. There is no dawn here, just a slow unraveling of the darkness. The sky is not blue, but the color of old metal, cold and heavy and lifeless. You don't wake. You crawl into the day. Your joints resist every motion. Your back aches from sleeping on dirt. Your fingers are stiff, still stained from the ash and the soil of yesterday. You do not speak. No one does. There's nothing left to say. Outside, the world groans beneath a sky thick with cloud. You pass your neighbors with hollow nods, eyes sunken, skin pale. Everyone has the same look now, like they're carrying invisible coffins strapped to their shoulders. The steward is making his rounds today. He arrives on horseback, wrapped in furs far too fine for this place. He doesn't ride like he belongs here. He rides like he owns the earth. And perhaps he does, because when he speaks, people listen, not out of respect, but fear. He walks from house to house, inspecting grain stores, questioning the old, eyeing the young, taking what he wants. He is the hand of the Lord you will never meet. A man so distant he might as well be a myth, like dragons or justice. When the steward enters your home, your wife lowers her eyes. You stand by the door, tense, tired, angry, but silent. He eyes your boy, asks how old he is now. You lie, say he's younger. Too young for the levee. The steward nods, smiles, writes something down, and leaves. You exhale only when his horse disappears down the road. That's how it works. Power isn't shouted here. It whispers. And it watches. In the fields, the soil is still hard. But spring is coming. You can feel it like a pulse beneath the frost. The ground wants to wake. So do you. You dig with hands, not tools, because your hoe snapped 2 seasons ago and iron is too expensive. The soil gives reluctantly, like it resents your touch. You turn it over inch by inch, hoping for something, anything to grow. But the hunger is already here. It's in your belly, in your bones, in your dreams. The last of the bread is gone. You chewed the crust until your gums bled. Now there is only broth, thin, bitter water with a hint of cabbage. Your son eats slowly, like he's afraid to finish. Your wife doesn't eat at all. Later you go to the chapel. Not for prayer, for relief. The priest distributes alms. Old bread, dried peas, sometimes a bit of meat so gray you can't tell what animal it once was. You wait in line behind the widow with 5 children, behind the beggar with no legs, behind the girl with eyes too old for her face. When your turn comes, the priest barely looks at you. He places a crust in your hand, murmurs a blessing, as if words can feed a family. You leave, hollow, grateful, ashamed. Back home you find your wife crying, silently as always. She holds a scrap of cloth, your daughter's. She doesn't notice you at first. You do not interrupt. There is a sacredness in her grief. Eventually she wipes her eyes, stands, returns to the hearth. Life must go on, even when it feels like it shouldn't. You spend the evening patching a hole in the roof. The wind has torn away more thatch. You tie together bundles of straw, press them between the beams, and pray the rain holds off. It doesn't. That night, it falls in cold sheets creeping through the cracks. The fire spits and hisses, struggling to stay alive. Your son curls beside you, shivering. You wrap him in what little cloth you have left. You cannot sleep. Not tonight. Your thoughts are a storm louder than the one outside. You remember a story the priest once told, about a kingdom of gold far across the sea, where the streets are paved and the water runs clear, where no one goes hungry, where sickness is rare. You think about it often, not because you believe it, but because you want to. Hope is a kind of madness, but it's the only kind that doesn't kill you. Your wife touches your arm, says nothing, just a glance, a moment, enough to remind you. You're not alone. At dawn you'll rise again. Your son will open his eyes. The frost will cling to the window. The steward will return. The grain will grow, or it won't. The sickness will come, or it won't. And you will endure. Because in the Middle Ages there are no heroes, no epics, no saviors. Only you, and the cold, and the earth, and the ache that never leaves. But still you endure. And in this world, that is enough. The sun crawls across the sky like a dying thing. It offers no warmth, only light that feels distant, pale, almost cruel. The morning fog clings low over the fields, dragging its ghostly fingers across the earth, as if searching for something it lost, or someone. You wake not because you want to, but because you have to. Sleep is not rest here. It's a pause, a brief escape before the weight of existence crashes back down. You blink at the beams above your head, warped and blackened from years of smoke. Dust floats in the air like tiny motes of ash. You breathe them in and they scratch your throat like sandpaper. Your wife is already stirring the pot. The water is barely hot, the fire reluctant. You hear your son coughing softly, curled up under a pile of tattered blankets that smell like smoke and mold. You listen closely, just to make sure he's still breathing. There's no sound more terrifying here than silence. Silence means fever. It means the start of something that doesn't stop. Outside, the world creaks awake. You hear hooves in the mud. Someone's cart being dragged to market. A baby cries nearby. A rooster crows like it's angry at being alive. You push open the door and step into the cold. The mud clutches your boots like it wants to keep you. Everything smells of damp earth and unwashed bodies. A line of smoke rises from the blacksmith's hut. His hammer rings out, slow, steady. A sound that comforts and disturbs in equal measure. You wonder if he thinks while he works, or if it's easier not to. Today the Lord's men will come to collect the tithe. They do not knock. They do not wait. They come with bags and blades and books. To measure, to take, to remind you that everything you hold, everything you grow, build, bury, belongs to someone else. You gather what little you have. A sack of barley, 2 eggs, a bundle of herbs your wife dried last summer. It's not enough. It's never enough. But you hope it's enough not to be punished. The church bell rings and you follow the others to the center of the village. Faces pale, eyes downcast. A procession of ghosts. Not one of you has the strength for anger anymore. The steward's men stand tall, cloaked in crimson and leather, hands resting on the hilts of swords they've never had to use. Their armor gleams in a way your teeth never will. One of them sneers as he looks over your offerings. He jots something down in his ledger, a mark beside your name. You've seen that mark before, on others, on the doors of those who couldn't give enough. And you remember how quickly the dogs came after. You try not to think about it. You try not to think about anything. Afterward, you return home with empty hands and a head full of fog. Your wife doesn't ask. She doesn't need to. She knows the weight of an empty sack. She places her hands in yours, rough, cracked, stained with ash and tears. And for a moment, you both pretend it's going to be all right. But deep down, you know what's coming. The hunger is already here. The worst of winter is still ahead. And now there's less than ever. The next day, your neighbor collapses in the field. He falls like a tree, sudden, graceless, final. You rush to him, but his eyes are already distant. His mouth gapes open, as if trying to say something that got lost between this world and the next. His wife kneels beside him, her wail echoing across the village like a bell. Not a soul comes to help. Everyone watches. No one moves. Because what can they give her? What is left to offer when you're already empty? You help bury him. The ground is half frozen. It takes all morning just to dig deep enough. The priest mutters a prayer you've heard too many times, and the rest of the village pretends not to see the widow's swollen belly. The child will come soon, into a world that cannot feed it, into arms that are already trembling, and no one will stop it, because no one can. That night, the wind rattles the walls. You sit by the fire, what little there is of it, sharpening a knife that won't stay sharp, not for defense, but for barter, or maybe mercy. You don't know anymore. Your son is too quiet again. You place your hand on his chest, counting each breath. They're shallow, but steady. For now, you tell him a story to keep the dark at bay. Something about a knight and a dragon and a silver sword that glows when the hero is brave. He smiles just a little, enough to keep you going. But the words feel like dust in your mouth, because the real dragons don't live in caves. They live in castles. They wear rings and robes, and they take more than fire ever could. You watch your wife thread a needle by candlelight. She's repairing a tunic for the 100th time. The fabric is more patch than cloth now, but she sews anyway, because she believes in holding things together, even when everything is falling apart. Tomorrow you will go to the woods, not to hunt, you've nothing left for traps, but to look for roots, for bark, for anything that might pass for food. You'll avoid the places where the wolves are known to roam, and the parts of the forest where the light never touches, the ones the old women whisper about. But if it's death or darkness, you'll choose the latter. At least the darkness has never asked you to kneel. And as you lie down that night, the wind biting through the walls, the fire sighing its last breath, you wonder, not whether you'll survive the week, but whether surviving even means anything anymore. Because in the Middle Ages, life is not a gift. It's a sentence, and every day is another line carved deeper into your soul. Still, you close your eyes. Still, you dream. Because dreaming is the one thing no steward can tax. The one thing even hunger can't steal. Not yet, not tonight. The wind is cruel this morning. It howls like something ancient and starving, crawling between the cracks in your home, licking at your skin with icy breath. The cold is not just outside, it's in your chest, in your marrow, in your soul. You pull your threadbare cloak tighter, but it's like wrapping yourself in fog. Your wife is boiling bark, birch maybe. The bitterness will make you forget you haven't eaten. Your son doesn't speak. He stares at the fire with empty eyes. He knows not to ask for more. There's a knock at the door. Not a friendly one. Not a neighbor. 3 short raps, sharp, precise. The kind of knock that doesn't wait for permission. You open it slowly. 2 of the Lord's men. Tall, dry-faced, soaked in leather and steel. They don't look at you when they speak. One of them unfurls a scroll, the words read flatly, as if they're carved into stone. The levy has begun. War is coming. The Lord needs bodies. Strong ones. They look at your son. Too young, they say. They look at you. Just right. You want to argue. You want to scream, but your tongue is made of stone. You nod, because that's what you've been taught. To nod, to bow, to break before you burn. You're given 2 days to report to the levy post. No armor, no sword, just yourself, your rags, your blood. When they leave, your wife doesn't cry. She just sits, hands folded in her lap, knuckles white. She knew this day would come. You all did. That night you lie with her beneath the cloak. You don't speak. There's nothing to say. Words are too small for the grief swelling between your ribs. In the silence, your fingers brush hers. A quiet vow, not to return, but to try. The next morning you walk to the woods. Not to escape. You know better. There's no escape in this world, only delay. You gather what you can. A stick straight enough to be a spear. A stone sharp enough to be a knife. And a small carving your son made. A figure shaped like a knight, crude but proud. You tie it around your neck with twine. A charm. A memory. You return to find your wife has packed a small cloth bundle. Dried roots. A scrap of cheese. A little salt. It is the most she's ever given you. She kisses you once. Not soft, not gentle. Fierce, final. Like sealing something shut. Your son won't look at you. He sits near the hearth, shoulders hunched. You want to hold him, but you're afraid you won't let go. So you leave, because staying would be worse. The road is mud and ice. You pass others heading the same way. Men with empty eyes and stiff limbs. No one speaks. Why would they? What comfort can words offer when the sky itself seems to mourn? At the levy camp you are stripped, washed in freezing water, inspected like cattle, laughed at, mocked. You say nothing. They hand you a rusted blade and call it a sword. They strap a wooden shield to your arm and pretend it will save you. They teach you how to march, how to swing, how to stab, but they cannot teach you not to be afraid. At night, you lie in the dirt with strangers. The fires are small. The food is worse. You sleep with one eye open, because you are surrounded by desperate men, and desperation makes monsters. You think of your wife, of the quiet curve of her shoulders, of the way she hums when she kneads dough. You think of your son, of the rasp of his cough, of his night-shaped charm resting against your heart. You want to go home, more than anything. But war does not care what you want. On the 3rd night, they give you orders. You are to march by dawn, to fight for a land that does not know your name. To die for a cause you'll never understand. You cannot sleep. You watch the fire until your eyes burn. The smoke dances like spirits. You wonder if one of them is you, already gone. A man near you begins to cry. Not loudly, just a soft, broken sound, like something cracking beneath too much weight. No one comforts him. No one can. Because here on the eve of war, every man is alone. Even in a crowd. Even in the firelight. The Middle Ages do not forgive weakness. They do not wait for hope. They do not pause for grief. They devour. And tomorrow you will be devoured too. Unless by some miracle, you survive. But survival here is not a triumph. It is a curse with a heartbeat. And it only gets heavier. The morning arrives without mercy. Not with light, but with sound. Horns barking orders, the dull thud of boots stomping frozen ground. You rise from half-sleep, your muscles aching from the cold and the hard earth. There's frost on your cloak. Your breath hangs in the air like smoke from a dying fire. The other men stir in silence, eyes swollen, faces hollowed by fear. No one speaks of what's to come. You all know. Your hands tremble as you lace your boots, not from the cold. Not entirely. They hand you a crust of bread. It's hard enough to crack a tooth. You chew it anyway. Hunger doesn't allow for dignity. Neither does war. You march. Your feet sink into mud that smells of rot and old blood. The road is narrow and slick, hemmed in by skeletal trees that claw at the sky. It begins to rain. Not a storm, just a steady, bitter drizzle that seeps through your cloak, down your back, into your bones. The knight leading your column rides ahead, his armor polished, his banner bright with a lion you'll never understand. He shouts commands that echo off stone and flesh alike. To him this is duty. To you this is death in slow motion. The other men trudge beside you, quiet except for the sound of breath and boots and fear. One stumbles. No one helps him up. He learns. By midday you reach the edge of a hill, below a village, or what's left of one. Blackened beams, collapsed walls, ash curling into the sky like prayers gone unanswered. The enemy has already passed through, or maybe they still wait in the trees. No one knows. No one wants to find out. You're ordered to search, to see if anything moves, if anything still breathes. You grip your sword tighter. Your fingers are numb, not from cold, but from the weight of what they've asked you to do. The village is silent, so quiet it hurts. The only sound is your heartbeat, too loud, too fast. You push open a door. It creaks like a dying thing. Inside, shadows. A burned table. A doll half melted, its face twisted in an eternal scream. Then a sound. A shuffle. From beneath the floorboards, you freeze. The other soldier with you gestures, go. You lift the hatch. There in the dark, a child. Filthy. Shaking. No more than 6. He stares at you with eyes wide as the moon. He doesn't cry. He just clutches a wooden spoon like it's a sword. The other soldier raises his blade. You step between them. You don't speak. You just shake your head. The man stares at you, blade still lifted. But after a moment, he lowers it. Not because he agrees. Because he's tired. Too tired to argue with your madness. You lift the child from the hatch. His ribs are showing. He smells of smoke and ash and fear. You carry him to the edge of the village and leave him beneath a tree. You don't know if he'll survive, but it's the only mercy you have left. You return to the column. Say nothing. No one asks. That night the fire is smaller. The rain won't stop. Your clothes cling to your skin like a second punishment. You dream of the boy, of the spoon, of his hollow gaze. In the dream he speaks, but the words come out in a language you've never heard. And still you understand. He asks why. Why you live. Why his home burned. Why no one came sooner. You have no answer. In the morning, a trumpet sounds. Not for retreat. Not for rest. For battle. You grip your sword. Feels heavier than before, because now it carries shame. You line up with the others. The hill overlooks a field, a sea of armor and banners. They look just like you. Hungry men. Afraid men. Men holding blades for reasons they don't remember. The captain rides down the line. He tells you this is glory. That you fight for king and country. That heaven smiles on the brave. You say nothing, because if heaven were watching, it looked away long ago. Then the horn. The charge begins. Feet pound. Shields rise. Voices scream. And you run. Because if you don't, They'll kill you from behind. The world becomes noise. Metal on metal, bone on wood, blood in mud. You don't remember who you strike, or how many. Only the heat, the weight, the smell, iron, sweat, waste. You fall, you rise, you fall again. And somehow, when the dust clears, you are still breathing. But the man beside you isn't. His eyes are open. Mouth too, like he's surprised to be dead. You close them. It's the only prayer you know. Around you, the dead, piled like firewood. Young, old, same. Victory is declared. You've won. But it feels like losing. Losing something you didn't know you had. You return to camp, silent, blood-stained. No one celebrates. No songs. No cheers. Just sleep if it comes. And in your dreams, not the glory, not the banners, just the boy with the spoon, asking again and again, why? The days blur, not in the way lazy summer days do, with sun and wine and the hum of bees. No, these days blur like wounds left untreated, like screams muffled by snow. You no longer count them. Time here does not pass. It weighs. Your hands, once rough from fieldwork, are now hardened in a different way. Calloused not by soil, but by steel. They shake less now when you hold the blade. That frightens you. You've stopped remembering their faces, the ones who fall, the enemy, your comrades. The boy with the crooked teeth who shared his bread. The old man who limped when he walked. The child with a stone in his boot. Gone, buried in shallow pits or left for the crows. No prayers, no markers, no names. They told you this is duty. They told you this is manhood. But no one told you what to do with the silence that follows the killing. How it sits in your chest like smoke after a fire, impossible to clear. The captain promotes you. Too many have died. You don't feel proud. You feel colder. They give you a better sword. Still rusted. Still sticky with old blood. You carry it like a sin. The next village is different. Not burned. Not broken. Just still. You arrive with 30 men. The banner held high, fluttering like a lie. People peer from their doorways. Children clutch their mothers. You look at them and you see your son. Every time. Every face. You're told to collect taxes. To take grain, cloth, livestock. Your commander says if they don't give, take. And so you knock. And when the old man says he has nothing left, you take the goat anyway. You don't look him in the eyes. Because they might be the same as your fathers were. Long ago. One house won't open. You bang harder. A woman answers. Face pale, arms thin. A child hides behind her. You say nothing. You just hold out your hand. She gives you a sack, potatoes, small and shriveled. You nod. She nods. A silent transaction of survival. But another soldier isn't satisfied. He pushes past her. Says he's searching for hoarded goods. You hear the child cry. You step inside. It's dark. Smells of mildew and ashes. The soldier kicks over a basket. Curses. Finds nothing. Then he grabs the woman by the wrist. Hard. Too hard. Something inside you snaps. You don't think. You just act. You shove him. He stumbles. Draws his blade. So do you. The other soldiers watch. Eyes wide. No one interferes. Your blades clash. It's over in seconds. Yours is faster. He falls, mouth open, confusion etched across his face. The woman is trembling. The child is silent now. The silence after thunder. You expect punishment. But the captain says nothing. Just glances once at the corpse and walks away. Another body in the mud. Another name forgotten. That night, the men look at you differently. Some with respect. Others with fear. You don't want either. You just want sleep. But when you close your eyes, you see the soldier's face. Not when he died, but when he laughed days earlier, tossing a stone at a squirrel. He had a brother. You remember that now, the one with the crooked teeth. You roll over. You whisper a prayer, not to God, but to the stars. To anyone listening, the road continues. Every day the same. March, fight, take, sleep, repeat. And slowly a part of you erodes. Not all at once, like stone under rain. Softly, relentlessly. You forget the taste of honey, the feel of your child's hand, your wife's voice. What did she sound like? You can't remember, just the shape of her silence. The captain calls you to his tent. You're being reassigned. A special post, he says. A border outpost. Harsh, forgotten, but quiet. You nod. It feels like exile. You hope it is. The next morning, you leave alone. No fanfare, no farewells. Just a trail behind you and a sky that will never stop weeping. You walk for miles, through woods that whisper and valleys that sigh. Your feet blister. Your thoughts ache. Finally, you reach the outpost. A crumbling stone tower. A wooden palisade. A fire that barely flickers. The soldier stationed there is old, eyes sunken, voice soft. He nods when he sees you, as if he's been waiting, as if he already knows what you carry. You take your post. You watch the trees. You listen to the wind. You speak little, eat less, sleep only when exhaustion breaks you. At night, you sit by the fire and hold the charm your son carved. The crude night with no face, and for the first time in weeks, you cry. Not loud. Not long, but enough to remember that you were once a man with a family, a home, a name. Now you are a shadow on the edge of a dying world, a whisper in a storm, a man the medieval age is slowly, completely, devouring. The outpost is quiet, not peaceful, just forgotten. The kind of quiet that settles into your bones, makes a home in your chest, and turns every breath into a question you're too tired to answer. You patrol the same patch of earth day after day, a thin line between what was and what might still come. Nothing moves beyond the trees, no caravans, no raiders, not even animals brave the dead silence of this place. At times you wonder if the war has passed you by, if the world beyond the woods still exists. Sometimes you speak aloud, just to hear a voice, even if it's your own. It echoes too easily in the hollow space between the trees. The old man, your only companion, sits by the fire most days. He doesn't talk much. When he does, his words come slow, dragged across cracked lips. They all forget us, he says once. Not bitter, just stating a truth. Kings, lords, even God. You don't argue. You've stopped looking for heaven in the sky. One night the wind shifts. You smell smoke, but not from the hearth. This is acrid, distant. You climb the watchtower. Far on the horizon, a glow, red and flickering. A village burning, too far to reach, too far to help. You say nothing. You watch until it fades. The old man sees it too. He doesn't get up, just throws another log into the fire and whispers, "Another one gone." You wonder how many villages there were before. How many people vanished in silence. Days pass. Weeks maybe. The measure of time is broken here. Sunrise, sunset, the rhythm of ghosts. Then one morning, footsteps. Not yours. Not the old man's. Real. You draw your sword. Heart tight. Every instinct screaming. From the woods emerges a woman. She's young, but the years have etched themselves deep into her face. A child clings to her skirt, barefoot, eyes blank. She says nothing, just stands at the edge of the clearing. You lower your weapon. She doesn't flinch. The old man walks up beside you. "Let them in," he mutters. So you do. They sit by the fire. The woman eats the dried meat you offer without thanks. The child eats nothing, just stares into the flames like he's waiting to fall in. You ask where she came from. She shrugs. No name for it now. Ashes don't keep names. You don't press her. You've learned not to chase the stories people aren't ready to tell. That night they sleep in the tower. The old man takes the floor. You sit outside, sword across your lap, watching stars that don't blink. You remember telling your son once that stars were holes in the sky, where angels peeked through. You hate that memory now. It feels like a lie. In the morning, the woman is gone. So is the child. No footprints. No trail. Just the empty space they left behind. The old man says nothing. Neither do you. But the fire burns lower that night. You don't feed it. You begin seeing things. Shadows that linger too long. Flickers at the edge of your vision. Voices carried on the wind. Familiar but never clear. Your wife's laugh. Your son's cry. The whisper of your name. You shake your head. You mutter to yourself. You pace. But they keep coming. Maybe it's the isolation. Maybe it's the guilt. Or maybe the land remembers the dead better than the living ever did. One night you wake to find the old man gone. You search the outpost, the woods, the path. Nothing. In his place, a small bundle. A piece of parchment. Scrawled in uneven hand, "I'm going home if there's still one left." You sit by the fire for hours, waiting for his return. He never does. The wind returns. Stronger now. Angrier. It howls through the cracks in the tower like a warning. Winter comes early. The trees freeze. The sky turns to steel. You ration what's left. Dried beans. Hard bread. A flask of something sharp that burns going down. You think often about walking into the woods. Just walking. Until your legs give out. Until the cold takes you gently like sleep. But something holds you. Some stubborn ember. Not hope. Not really. Just the need to witness what comes next. You stop sharpening your sword. You clean it still, out of habit, not faith. One evening, as the last red sliver of sun sinks behind the trees, you whisper a name. Your son's. You haven't said it in months. Maybe longer. It tastes like ash. But it reminds you, you were someone. Before this. Before blood and banners and bone. And in the quiet that follows. You swear. For a moment. You hear him whisper yours back. Not from the woods. Not from the past. But from inside. Where memory lives. And refuses to die. Even when everything else does. The thaw comes slowly. Not with fanfare. Not like in stories where snow melts in a single breath and flowers bloom in triumphant chorus. No. This is the kind of thaw that creeps. The kind that drips from rooftops in rhythms that echo like water clocks. One icicle at a time, the land begins to exhale. You notice it first in the air. It carries the scent of wet earth now. Damp, musky, alive. Mud replaces frost. Footprints stay pressed in the soil instead of disappearing in white. A thin mist floats over the woods in the morning, as if the forest is trying to remember how to breathe. Inside the outpost, the others stir more easily now. The baby no longer sleeps wrapped in furs like a corpse. His cheeks have color. He even cries again, loud, clear, as if daring the world to break him. It is the most beautiful sound you've heard in months. The woman, his mother, speaks more now too. Her name is Ellen. Her voice is rough from disuse, but there's steel in it. You learn that her husband was taken during the raids, not killed. Taken. She doesn't say by whom, but her eyes sharpen when she speaks of it. There's no hope in them. Only the memory of vengeance not yet realized. The others have names too. Tomas, the limping man who once worked a forge. Nesta, the girl who sees everything but says little. Old Brusen, who remembers the names of stars and forgets his own half the time. Mare, a silent boy with eyes like river stones. You keep their names like sacred things. You write them in ash and whisper them to yourself by firelight, as if the wind might carry them into heaven for safekeeping. You still sleep lightly. Too many nights spent waiting for blades in the dark. But sometimes now you dream without dread. You dream of your wife. Not the memory that haunts, the way she looked when they found her, but the way she once laughed, throwing flour into your face as you kissed her in the kitchen. That dream, you hold on to. You wake with it wrapped around your ribs like a second skin. The days stretch longer. Tomas builds traps, snares, hooks. He catches rabbits, even a squirrel. The meat is tough but warm in your belly. You chew slowly, feeling every thread of sinew, every muscle that once twitched with life. You thank the animal aloud, not because anyone tells you to, but because death feels different now. Personal. You fix the tower ladder, patch holes in the roof, reinforce the stockade. The outpost is still broken, but no longer abandoned. It breathes again. On the 7th morning after the thaw began, a hawk circles overhead. You see it from the tower, gold feathers flashing in the sun. You lift your hand in greeting. It wheels twice before flying west. You tell no one, but that hawk feels like a sign. That night Brusen falls ill. Not the kind of illness that can be fixed with soup and sleep. His breath rattles. His skin turns the color of ash. He stares through you as though he's already partway gone. You sit beside him in the dark. He asks you, in a trembling voice, to name the stars with him. So you do, even though the clouds hide them. You make them up if you must. He smiles once, barely, and then he goes. No sound, no struggle. Just gone. The baby wakes and cries, and the sound feels too real, too alive, to bear in the same room as death. You bury Brusen beneath a yew tree near the gate. You mark the grave with stones, not because you think he'll come back, but because someone should remember where he last was. The others gather. No prayers. Just silence. Thomas finally speaks. We live because we remember. That's all he says. It's enough. That evening, Ellen gives you something. A piece of her old cloak, carefully stitched and folded. You unfold it to find a symbol embroidered into the cloth. A sun rising over a broken tower. It's what they wore in the north, she says. Before it all fell. You nod. You don't ask what it means. Some symbols are too heavy to carry with words. You pin it to the inside of your tunic near your heart. Not for glory, but to feel its weight. On the 10th day after the thaw, strangers approach. You spot them from the tower. 3 riders. Wrapped in black and silver. Not bandits. Too clean. Too upright. They fly no banners. They make no sound as they ride. You descend, sword on your back, breath held like a drawn bowstring. The others stand behind you. You feel them, their heat, their fear, like waves at your back. The riders stop just outside the gate. The lead one dismounts. He removes his helm. His face is young, too young, but his eyes are the kind you only get from seeing too much. Is this place still held? He asks. You say yes. He nods, looks at the others, at the repaired walls, at the smoke curling from the chimney. We didn't expect anyone to still be alive out here. You don't answer. Just wait. He reaches into his satchel, pulls out a scroll, unrolls it. A map. You've held a border that no longer exists, he says. But we're building again. West of here. Safer ground, if you want it. You glance back at your people. Ellen, Thomas, Nesta, the child. And you wonder, what does it mean to leave a place that kept you alive? Is it betrayal, or is it hope? You meet the young rider's eyes. How far, you ask. 2 days' ride. You nod slowly. We'll come at first light. He smiles once. Tight. Relieved. Then mounts and rides off without another word. That night you pack in silence. The others do the same. It's a quiet not of fear, but of reverence. This place held you when nothing else would. It took your blood and your sorrow and your silence, and gave you purpose in return. You stand by the tower one last time, run your hand over the stone, then whisper, "The road west is not a road at all. It is a ribbon of mud and frost-bitten earth, winding through the shattered veins of a dying forest. The trees here are older than the kingdom that once ruled this land. Their branches arch like the arms of the forgotten, twisted, gnarled, reaching for something they cannot name. The sun barely breaks the clouds. It hangs low, weak, like a candle sputtering at the edge of night. And still you walk, one step, then another. Not for glory, not even for survival, but because staying behind would mean something worse. Silence, stillness, decay. You move as a group, but not yet a tribe. Too much grief between you still. Too many ghosts walking beside you. Thomas limps, leaning on a crooked staff. Ellen carries her child strapped to her back, eyes sharp with every rustle of underbrush. Mare walks behind her, watchful, silent. Nesta doesn't speak at all now, but she doesn't cry either. You've come to realize that's her strength. On the second day it rains. Not a warm spring rain, but a cold, biting mist that clings to your clothes and worms its way into your bones. Your boots grow heavy. The mud pulls at them with every step, as if the land itself is trying to pull you under. You don't speak. Words would freeze in the air. There is no shelter here, only the wreckage of what once was. You pass what remains of a village, just the blackened ribs of homes, their insides gutted by fire. There are bones here too, charred, pale, forgotten. A child's shoe half buried in the mud. A broken doll, its face melted into a permanent scream. The others do not look, but you do. You make yourself look, because someone should remember. By nightfall, you find what might have been a granary once. The roof is half collapsed, but the walls hold. You build a small fire and huddle around it, soaked and hollow-eyed. Thomas coughs into his blanket. Ellen feeds the baby, whispering something you can't hear. Nesta curls against the wall, her knees drawn to her chest. You stare into the flames and see shapes, faces. A tower in winter, a man dying under stars. A life you lived once before the world burned it away. In the middle of the night, Mare wakes you. Not with words, just a hand on your shoulder. Eyes wide. You hear it too, movement in the dark. Not animal, not wind. voices. You kill the fire with a boot full of mud. Pull the others close. Draw your blade. A group of men passes on the road above. 5 of them. Dirty, armed, muttering in low tones. One laughs, sharp and cruel. You see the glint of steel. Not soldiers, scavengers. Wolves in human skin. They don't see you. You wait until their footsteps fade, breath held tight in your chest. Ellen clutches her child like he's made of glass. Thomas whispers a prayer under his breath. You don't. You just listen. Until silence returns. By morning, no one speaks of it. You walk again. Each hour feels heavier. The hunger sharpens. Your hands ache from cold. Your back protests every mile. But still, you walk. Because the rider promised something beyond this. Safety, shelter, something that might feel like a future. But hope is a dangerous thing in this world. It glows just bright enough to be seen, just faint enough to disappear. On the 3rd day, you find it. A wall, low and unfinished, but there, built from stone and timber. Behind it, a cluster of tents and half-constructed homes. A forge, smoke, people, actual people. One of the riders from before stands at the gate. He sees you, nods, waves. You should feel relief. You should feel joy. Instead, you feel nothing. Just the ache in your legs, the silence in your heart, the weight of everyone you've lost. They open the gate, and you step inside. There's no cheering, no ceremony, just the quiet murmur of voices, the crackle of fires, the hammering of nails. Life, trying to begin again. A woman brings you broth, thin but warm. You sip it like it's holy. They assign you a tent near the edge of the camp. It's small but dry. There's straw on the floor. Blankets that don't smell of blood. A place to breathe. That night, Ellen weeps. Not loudly. Just a shuddering breath that finally escapes her chest like smoke from a long-dead fire. You hold her hand. Nothing more. She doesn't pull away. Nesta sleeps beside the baby. Thomas mumbles in his sleep. Names you don't know. Mare carves something with a broken knife. You don't ask what. You lie awake for a long time, listening to the wind through canvas. To footsteps outside, to the quiet, rhythmic beat of the world not ending. You realize something slowly. You made it. Not whole, not unbroken, but through, and as sleep finally claims you, you dream not of fire, or blood, or snow, but of a gate opening, and the sound of a voice saying, "You're not alone anymore." The days begin to stretch, not just in light, but in rhythm. Here in the Western camp, time doesn't snap like a whip. It folds, it unfurls. Mornings come with the smell of smoke and bread, not blood. There are chores instead of alarms, hands instead of weapons, tasks instead of threats. You're not at peace, not truly. But the air doesn't taste of fear anymore. It tastes of damp wood, of boiling cabbage, of something simpler, something close to safe. You wake with the others and help lift beams for new homes. The tools are blunt. The wood is warped. Nails bend in your hands. But no one curses. No one quits. You find yourself working beside a boy who speaks little and smiles even less. His name is Callan. He lost his brothers in the Eastern collapse. He carries their blades on his back like wings. You don't ask about them? He doesn't offer. The woman who runs the kitchen is called Mara. She lost her voice long ago, scar across her throat like a thread pulled too tight. But she rules the cooking fires with gestures sharp as knives. When she presses a crust of bread into your hand at midday, it feels like a benediction. You nod in thanks. She taps your shoulder once, then moves on. Ellen volunteers in the infirmary. Her hands are steady. Her face is stone. You watch her tend to a boy with a shattered wrist. Her voice is gentle, practiced. The child doesn't cry. She leaves a doll beside his cot, one carved from the branch Mare worked on during your journey west. You realize then, Mare gave it to her quietly. No words, just action. That's how kindness moves now. In silence, between hands that understand loss. Tomas teaches others how to make hinges, hooks, arrowheads. He's not a master smith, but he remembers enough. He shows a girl how to temper iron with trembling hands and mutters about his old forge. Back when the world made sense, he says. Then, almost smiling, or at least when fire was the worst thing you could lose. Nesta, still mostly silent, has taken to walking the perimeter, watching, listening. You've seen her count every exit, study every face. Not with suspicion, just memory. Like she's building a map in her mind in case everything burns again. You admire her for it, maybe even need her for it. The baby, Ellen's son, has started to laugh. At birds, at the snap of wind through canvas, at his own reflection in a bucket of water. It's a sound so small, so absurdly pure, that it cracks something in your chest when you hear it. A sound you never expected to hear again. But not everything here is gentle. On the 5th evening, a runner arrives at camp, half-starved, filthy. He collapses before he speaks. When they finally coax words from him, the mood shifts like a storm rolling in from the sea. He speaks of the southern line, of a caravan burned, of settlers taken, of a mark carved into the trees. You know the mark? You saw it once before. A crescent split with a vertical gash. Not a symbol of a kingdom, not of any god, but of men. Men who feed on the fall of others. Raiders who wear no banners because they serve no cause but chaos. The same kind who tore your past apart, one fire at a time. The leaders of the camp meet by torchlight that night. You are not among them, but you linger near enough to hear the edge in their voices. Some want to flee westward again, further, into the unknown. Others say no. We stand. We build. We bleed if we must, but we do not run anymore. You understand both. That night, as the camp quiets and the stars bloom faintly overhead, you sit by the fire with Thomas. He sharpens a blade that has seen too much metal and too much blood. Neither of you speaks for a long time. Then he says, "Do you believe in beginnings?" You don't answer at first. The fire crackles between you. "Not anymore," you say. "But I believe in choosing what to end." Thomas nods slow. Then maybe that's the same thing. You think of your wife again, not her death, but her voice. The way she used to say your name like it was something whole. You think of the tower, the hawk, the boy with eyes like stone, the graves you didn't have time to dig. You look at the camp, the lights, the walls, the tiny fragile pulse of something daring to grow. And you whisper, almost too softly to hear it, "We build. Even if the storms come again, even if death circles like wolves in the trees, even if tomorrow burns, because this time it will not take you unaware. And when it comes, you will be ready." They come just before dawn, not like thunder, not like fire. No drums, no horns, no blaze of sky to announce them. Just the crunch of feet on frozen ground, the creak of leather, the quiet hiss of breath drawn slow and shallow. Shadows moving like ghosts beyond the tree line. Nesta sees them first. She's been awake for hours, pacing the perimeter, listening to the forest speak. She feels the stillness shift, like a held breath finally exhaled. She doesn't run. She walks, fast, precise, straight to the nearest watch post and taps twice on the bell. Not enough to raise panic, but enough to signal, something is coming. You wake to the sound of rustling fabric, murmured voices, boots thudding into earth. The camp is already moving. Torches are doused, children gathered, doors braced. There's a system now. These people, your people, have prepared. You buckle your blade to your hip and step outside. The air is sharp, almost brittle. Every sound seems to echo. Mare is already strapping on her armor, what little of it remains from before. Callan stands beside her, eyes hard, jaw clenched, hands wrapped around a borrowed spear. You meet Ellen near the infirmary. She's pale, but calm. The baby is wrapped tight against her chest. She hands him off to an older woman, one of the cooks, who flees toward the root cellars without a word. "Don't let them take what we built," Ellen says, her voice raw. You nod. "You don't promise." No one makes promises anymore. The first arrow falls an hour later. It thuds into the mud at the center of the camp. Point down, fletching black shaft marked with the crescent gouge. A message, a warning, or just a game. A second arrow follows, this one tipped with a strip of flesh. Still bleeding. Then silence. Mare spits into the dirt. They want us scared. The days begin to stretch, not just in light, but in rhythm. Here in the western camp, time doesn't snap like a whip. It folds, it unfurls. Mornings come with the smell of smoke and bread, not blood. There are chores instead of alarms, hands instead of weapons, tasks instead of threats. You're not at peace, not truly. But the air doesn't taste of fear anymore. It tastes of damp wood, of boiling cabbage, of something simpler, something close to safe. You wake with the others and help lift beams for new homes. The tools are blunt. The wood is warped. Nails bend in your hands. But no one curses. No one quits. You find yourself working beside a boy who speaks little and smiles even less. His name is Callan. He lost his brothers in the Eastern collapse. He carries their blades on his back like wings. You don't ask about them? He doesn't offer. The woman who runs the kitchen is called Mara. She lost her voice long ago, scar across her throat like a thread pulled too tight. But she rules the cooking fires with gestures sharp as knives. When she presses a crust of bread into your hand at midday, it feels like a benediction. You nod in thanks. She taps your shoulder once, then moves on. Ellen volunteers in the infirmary. Her hands are steady. Her face is stone. You watch her tend to a boy with a shattered wrist. Her voice is gentle, practiced. The child doesn't cry. She leaves a doll beside his cot, one carved from the branch Mare worked on during your journey west. You realize then, Mare gave it to her quietly. No words, just action. That's how kindness moves now. In silence, between hands that understand loss. Tomas teaches others how to make hinges, hooks, arrowheads. He's not a master smith, but he remembers enough. He shows a girl how to temper iron with trembling hands and mutters about his old forge. Back when the world made sense, he says. Then, almost smiling. Or at least when fire was the worst thing you could lose. Nesta, still mostly silent, has taken to walking the perimeter, watching, listening. You've seen her count every exit, study every face. Not with suspicion, just memory. Like she's building a map in her mind in case everything burns again. You admire her for it, maybe even need her for it. The fires are dying, the walls are scorched. Bodies lie where they fell, yours and theirs. The cost is high, but you are alive. Thomas finds you first. His face is gray, his hands shake. He sits beside you without a word. Then Mare. Her wound is worse than you thought, but she walks. She sits too, not looking at you, just breathing. Ellen appears last, the baby still clutched against her chest. Safe. She kneels beside you and presses her forehead to yours. No words, no need. Together you sit there, silent, surrounded by smoke and ash and the scent of death. But you are not broken. Not this time. Because something has changed. You did not run. You did not hide. You stood, and when the monsters came, you made them bleed. The morning light is gray. Not golden, not warm. Just gray like breath on a mirror. It doesn't spill over the trees so much as seep, like cold through wool. You wake slowly, limbs aching, body bruised from sleep alone. No alarm, no phone, no gentle hum of electricity. Just the crow of a distant bird and the low rustle of wind dragging through torn canvas. You're alive, that much is clear, but nothing else is. Your hands remember the night before, how they clenched, how they bled, how they held the weight of a blade too long. Your knees remember the earth, soaked with more than rain. Your eyes remember fire, faces, the dead. And yet, the world moves on. You step outside. The camp is quieter than it's ever been. Not the silence of dread, but the stillness of aftermath. Like the world is holding its breath, waiting to see what you do next. Children are awake now. They move slowly, unsure of the new day, eyes darting to the trees. One boy, he can't be more than 5, draws a circle in the mud with a stick. Over and over, not speaking. Just that circle. The walls still stand. Barely. Charred in places, bent in others, but upright. They look like teeth now, crooked, blackened, clenched. You hear Ellen humming in the infirmary. The same melody she hummed when you first arrived. Only now it feels older. Like it belongs to this ground. Mare is sharpening a knife. Her wound is wrapped tight, her face is set. She says nothing, but you see it in her eyes. She's not done. Not by a long shot. Tomas is repairing a hinge with bare hands and sheer will. The forge is cold, but he works anyway. His fingers are cracked, knuckles split. eyes narrowed to a line. If anyone's building tomorrow, it's him. Nesta is standing on the edge of the wall, bow in hand. Not because she's expecting another raid, but because this is what she does now. She watches. She keeps the line. You walk through what's left of the market square. Blackened wood, crushed baskets. A single coin glinting in the dirt. You don't pick it up. Not everything lost needs to be found. The bodies have been buried. Shallow graves, marked with sticks and stones and anything else people could find. But not forgotten. You pass one with a bundle of herbs laid on top. Another with a child's doll clutched to the headstone. Grief is everywhere, but so is grit. Someone starts cooking something, thick, heavy porridge. It smells like ash and hunger, but people gather. They eat, because this is what it means to endure, to not vanish. And later, when the sun finally pushes through the clouds just a little, you hear laughter. Not loud, not bright, but real. It comes from the girl who lost her sister. She's skipping stones by the well, 1, 2, 3. The third sinks. She smiles anyway. And in that moment you realize something simple, something true. You made it. You didn't belong here, not at first. This world was too cruel, too raw, too cold for your modern skin. But skin hardens. Flesh remembers. Spirit bends, then roots. You've become part of this place, of its ruin, of its resilience. You've become medieval, and maybe, just maybe, that's not the curse you thought it was. Because survival here means something more than breathing. It means building from ashes. It means standing when the world tells you to kneel. It means lighting a fire in the dark and refusing to let it die. So now, as the sun sets on this final day, take a breath. Let it fill your lungs, let it feel heavy. Let it mean something. Because this story may be ending, but your story continues. Dim the lights, let the stillness settle in. Turn on a fan. Let the cold remind you how close you were to vanishing. And if this journey moved something in you, if it made you feel small or strong or haunted, leave a comment. Tell me where you're watching from. Tell me who you'd fight for. Because this wasn't just history, it was memory, and memory is sacred. Thank you for walking with me. I'll see you in the next life, or maybe the next story. Until then, stay warm, stay human, stay awake.